Hi everyone, it's Elizabeth here. So I wanted to do this video in regards to God will test us, but God will not tempt us. So depending on your level of spirituality, it doesn't matter if you just believe in, New Ageism or Christianity or Buddhism, or you just kind of cherry pick from all the things. You need to understand that life is a battle between light and dark, and there is definitely a difference between godly and loving energy that comes from the light, and then also kind of the demise, the lust, and the negative energy that comes from darkness. So I wanted to do this video because I do believe that God tests us. These, to some degree, are like soul graduations. I believe tests come into our lives in order to not only build our character and build up our strength, but it's a test to see if you will graduate to move on to the newer, more better version of yourself. A lot of times we go through situations and we kind of get the victim role and we start to say, like, why is this happening to me? So there's a quote that says, when you replace why is this happening to me with what is this trying to teach me, everything shifts. For some reason, a lot of times we become very impulsive or we become very reactive. We pull out the victim card when bad things start to happen to us. And that in itself is shifting the mentality in terms of either blaming other people or blaming ourselves or just being a victim. But when you can look at a trial or a tribulation or a test, whatever you want to call it, you can kind of start to be like entering that situation a little more cool, calm, and collective, a little bit more diplomatically, and be like, all right, instead of impulsively reacting, what lesson am I trying to learn here? Or what is the universe trying to teach me? So a lot of things shift because then, you kind of look at it like a roadblock. You can get through a roadblock. Roadblocks aren't forever. They're only forever if you allow them to, and you continue to spiral out of control to old patterns, old behaviors, old method of doing things. So trials test our character and help shape our faith with God, that God will see you through. You don't have to be religious. You don't even have to be mildly spiritual in order to believe in that. I believe you are given tests and as well as temptation. I do think if you believe in this battle between light and dark, God will test you. Darkness and Satan, if that's what you believe in that word, will tempt you. And God will allow darkness to enter, to tempt us, to see if you will also fall back into old behaviors and patterns. So I'll share a couple examples with you. When I studied Reiki back in 2013, I was fueled with so much energy. The first original school that I went to, I think it wasn't necessarily done in the correct way because you received all of your attunements throughout that entire weekend. So the students, we were just opened up to so much energy and had so much Reiki pouring through us that we were our own energetic vessels. And so a week after I studied Reiki, I had to work and teach a workshop at a local YMCA in West Seattle. And if you've been to Seattle, you have to cross over the West Seattle Bridge in order to get to that side. On my way home after that workshop, my car basically died. It died literally like 500 feet or a quarter of a mile before I got on the freeway. And thank God the divine timing of it happened when it did, because if my car completely shut off while trying to go like 50 or 60 miles an hour on the bridge, something horrible could have happened. And so I felt my car was dying. The radio turned off, and then I pulled into the Trader Joe's parking lot to get, I basically like spun my car into the last remaining spot, and a part of me just wanted to freak out. I wanted to freak out about what happened, how the hell I was going to get home, how I'm going to afford to pay for a new car. Like, I didn't really want that expense. I was like, oh my God, what's going to happen? So I was just calm about it. I got my car parked. It didn't start. So at the time I was married, so I called my ex-husband. He obviously came to get me. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, so we had to get a tow truck. And that in itself, because of studying Reiki and through the development of yoga and meditation, I realized I couldn't go back to an old behavior, which was just to like freak out, like probably every girl does at some point in time, or just get like really emotional about it. So I was like, okay, I need to remain calm. I just need to take a few breaths, do what my yoga training has told me, and let's handle this. So then a couple days later, now that my family of 2 was down to 1 car, I was driving my ex-husband's car, and that car completely not gassed out. It shut down the exact same way as my other car. I'm like, what the fuck? I thought, oh my God, I have so much energy in me that I'm zapping electronic equipment. If you've ever done Reiki, you know that you can zap electronics when you're filtered with so much energy. So the car shut down right by the Space Needle as I'm about to turn on to Fifth Avenue. And I was like, okay, don't freak out. I was like, this is going to start up again. This is going to start up again. I took some deep breaths and the car started up again. So I was like, okay. I just felt like I kept looking around and like, all right, they're really testing me to see if I'm going to move forward in life with a little bit more diplomacy and calmness and not go back to those neurotic ways of just like freaking out every time something happened. That is just a minor example. Now, I will say, in terms of love and relationships, I saw this a lot while I was married, and I also have seen it now that I've been single. It takes, a lot of people today are sucked into the lust world, right? Especially more men than women. Women are in that too, but generally, a lot of times men are a little bit more lusty than women. So I've seen this happen on numerous occasions where it's like the guy had kind of like a not so good background, or they just were like really promiscuous, which is really normal for men of today, especially in their 20s. And boy meets girl, the type of girl that he needs to meet. So maybe he's been hurt in the past, or maybe been used, or maybe he just used a lot of people, and he's like, I really want just to meet a sweet, nice girl, like he's putting it out there to the universe, and guess what? He meets a sweet, nice girl. On paper, she's everything he needs. She is gonna treat him good, X, Y, and Z, and then the temptation comes in. It's either, maybe the girl that he met is also like not necessarily his like lusty fantasy type, but like she's really good to him, like really good in the heart. He's what she needs. She can, enhance his life, help him grow, blah, blah, blah. And then the temptation comes in. It's either a lusty hot woman who has the same shitty behaviors as all the exes, or the ex comes back. So now he's in this pickle of a situation because he's being tempted to be lured back either to the ex or to people who are like her, who will continue to keep him on the path of self-destruction, or to move forward with somebody who might not necessarily be like every physical category that, knocks or like is like checking off all the boxes on his list, but is someone who's really going to cultivate a very happy and healthy relationship. Now, I'm just using this example because I've had, as a woman, I've had more females in my life express a lot of these things that have happened to them. And so in that moment, that man is being tested. He's being tested to either move forward and graduate to a better, healthier, happier thing, or to continue to get stuck in the same patterns and the same bullshit, either with that ex or with a person that's it's like the same type of person, just packaged in a different spacesuit, basically. We're all human bodies. She might look a little bit different, but might kind of check off all those like lusty hot boxes. And, there's a huge difference between lust and love. And in that type of a temptation situation, you can kind of definitely see as, all right, is he really ready for love, or is he still stuck in lust? I watched one of these videos on men that talked about, like men and marriage, basically. And in the comment box, I read a lot of comments, and a lot of the women said a lot of the same thing, that some of the stuff that these men were talking about was that they were still stuck in the lust phase. Now, these guys were in their later 30s, early 40s, and they wanted a family. So they were talking about how they met women who were on paper very, very good for them, who would make an excellent mother, who would be a very dependable, predictable partner, but to some of that degree too, they weren't like the freak in the sheets. So this guy was an Australian guy talking about this story, and then he talked about how he was, he met some women who were like really great on paper, like perfect, mother resume, I guess. And but then he fell for like the really hot Colombian woman who gave him tons of passion and sex. And so obviously, as a South American, all those Latino cultures have a lot of passion in them. And the way that he talked about her, though, he talked about her very objectively, like how hot she was and how, amazing she was in the sack and this, that, and the other. And eventually that Colombian woman broke up with him. And he said, when that happened, I called my mother just crying in tears, as like a 39-year-old man. And it's like, this guy wasn't even fully fucking developed in some sense to have, one, common sense on what's right for you or not, and two, she probably dumped you because all you were infatuated was with her body. Like, we obviously don't know the backstory on their relationship, but it's like, when you're completely stuck in that lust phase, or you're just choosing somebody just because of, superficial appearances, and it's not coming from the genuine connection of the heart. I believe the heart has so, it has a lot of wisdom in it. Love can also be blinding, to where we can choose wrong individuals because of being blinded by our heart and just following our hearts and stuff like that. So, it's like a balance between your mind and your heart. But I wanted to share these couple examples because I do think they are legitimate examples for you to kind of use in your life to see whether you will be tested and or tempted. God's not going to tempt you. God is not going to tempt you to want to do anything that is out of his godly energy. If you're a Christian, you would say the word sin. He's not going to want you to do drugs and a drink, and is not going to want you to be promiscuous or go to orgies, or, none of that. That's all temptation that comes from darkness. And 2 Corinthians 11:14 talks about Satan masks himself in light. Lucifer means light. It means light bearer. So, Lucifer is also a beautiful angel, like a very well not put together, but like physical appearance wise, he's attracted. She, if some people say it's a she, but not going to go down that path. But you can start to see when things that are wrapped in a really nice package in life, you have to think like, sometimes people think like, oh, God's sending me what I want, and that might be it. But you kind of have to sit there and think like, are you being tested? Where is that beautiful package being sent from? Is it sent from the light, or is it sent from the dark? So you can use spiritual wisdom to discern and apply logic to help you understand certain situations in your life. So we will always be tested. I mean, it's the same as if you're in 5th grade, you take an exam, you pass the exam, you pass all your classes. That means you're graduating on to the 6th grade. You pass all 4 years in college, you graduate, then you can go on to a master's degree. Soul and life is a lot like that. Whether it's testing you to move on from old behavior patterns, whether that would be something severe like alcohol or drug addictions or sex addictions. Love can be an addiction as well. Falling in love can definitely be very addicting. Old behavior patterns, or choosing the same type of people over and over again and getting your heart crushed and wondering why. It's probably because he or she, that type of person, is not necessarily good for you. So those are some thoughts that I have about this topic. If you'd like to share some thoughts, definitely please feel free to comment below. I think we can all learn from each other. If you'd like, subscribe. You can help me build this channel, as well as support me on Patreon if you believe in my message and my voice. Thank you for liking, sharing, and subscribing, and I'll see you next time. Bye!